Hi everyone, my name is Bertram Daniel from It's a Breeze Property, and I just thought I'd mention something which was interesting. I was chatting to a group of my friends and I was telling them a few stories about my real estate memories, and they said, "Oh my God, you've been around property and real estate for over 50 years." And he said, "Wow, that's interesting." And they said, "So how did it all start?" And I went, "Oh, be an interesting story to tell people, wouldn't it? Because how real estate has changed over that period of time has been quite amazing. I mean, when I started real estate, there was no computers, there was no mobile phones. Uh, People came to the office to look for a house, and then you put them in your car and you drove them around to the houses and had a chat. So in today's world, it's so different, and I find it fascinating how I've had to move with the times in a sense, and it's been a really interesting time. And now I've come to the stage where I've got my computer, I've got my mobile phone and social media and stuff like that. And it's changed the whole picture. Even how property used to be advertised was in the newspaper. And there was no social media, there was no computers, obviously. So people used to go and buy and there were some real estate papers. Sorry, there were some newspapers. For instance, The Age had classified for jobs. It had cars, it had real estate, so everything was done in print. And then the local papers had ads in it as well for houses which were with photographs and stuff like that, which was obviously more interesting than reading a newspaper with just black and white print. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting and it sort of brought me back to, I mean, how did I get into real estate, which was really fascinating because somebody suggested to me when I'd only been in Australia for probably a year or so, because I arrived here in 1973, and someone said to me, "What?" I'm thinking, I'd like to get into sales because someone had chatted to me about insurance sales, and that didn't really interest me. So I thought, no. So someone said, "What about houses?" And I went, "Wow. That's good. I really like that idea." So I applied for a job, and goodness me, the first job I applied for was with Hogan Bosch Real Estate in Baronia. And I went an interview and he said, "Yeah, you got the job." And I went, "Wow." Okay, so that was, a learning experience in itself. And then I hark back to the fact that, wow, it was done so differently. As I said, people just came to the office to look for housing. And how do you go and talk to people about selling their house? That's a whole nother story. So, you know, it's my first sale was in Belgrave Heights, which is a lovely area. And it's hilly and it's green. And I went and had a look at this house, which was already on the market with the company Hogan Bosch, and it was a weatherboard house on a sort of not a steep block, but a sloping block on the high side of the street with a beautiful weatherboard house, and it had a stream running through the front. And I went, "Wow, that's so lovely!" And so I fell in love with it. And of course, my enthusiasm, I couldn't contain it when I was with these people that I took to the house for the first time. And they wanted to buy it. And I went, "Wow, this was not a difficult job." But, and you wouldn't believe it, it was sold on quarter of an acre with this beautiful weatherboard house for $12,500. And that's today, that house is worth over $1 million, or say around $1 million. And if you do the maths and double the 12 and a half, it doubles 8 times to get to 1 million. And that's how real estate performs. So that's why you can't fail with real estate. It's such a solid investment and it's not controlled by anybody, not like the stock market, which is controlled. So the people, in a sense, control it. So there's nobody's in charge of controlling it, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it's been a fascinating time and I've enjoyed it tremendously. And the reality is that I don't actually want to retire because I just enjoy it so much. I don't watch television. I don't read the newspapers. I don't go to movies. What else would I do? So it's real estate for me. So that's how it is. So hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of history and a little bit of change, how you've seen it and how I've seen it. The other interesting aspect about how real estate has changed is how houses are presented. I mean, years ago, nobody really put too much emphasis on how to present their house, but I suppose that has changed with time, big time. In fact, in today's world, people dress up houses. And it brings me back to a sale that I made years and years and years ago, which was in a suburb called Wheelers Hill, which is part of the Waverley Shire. And I was in charge of an office in Wheelers Hill, and I had looked at this house, which was on the market, and it had been on the market for a while, and it had been with two real estate agents over that period of time and hadn't sold. And I sort of wondered why it wasn't selling. So anyway, I can't remember whether I approached them or they approached the office, but I went and had a look at it, and the couple were in their 60s, and the house was, the buyers were probably more like, young couples or in their 40s or whatever. And I thought, the reason this house is not selling is because it reflects oldie worldy stuff. And there's old pictures and it just had that old look about it. And I thought, wow, why don't I change that? So I decided myself to change it. So I went home and I got some stuff and I pictures, and I also brought a hat stand, which I used at the entry area, and I draped it with scarves and things like that, and made it bright and cheery. And then I brought some pictures from home and hung it in the entrance hall. I had them change the cushions in the lounge room to some colored ones instead of drab gray ones. I had them change their bedroom linen and put some interesting colors in there. I introduced a fruit bowl with lemons and apples to get the yellow and the green. And I had them have, incense and stuff like that. Really gave it a lift into a younger looking home. And you wouldn't believe it. It took 1 week to sell. And I've never, ever, ever forgotten that. And that sort of made me really understand dressing up your home before you sell is very important. In fact, there's a chapter in my book that I wrote, The Seven Deadly Sins, when selling your property. It's the chapter devoted to dressing up your home before you sell it. And it's absolutely necessary for somebody to do that. And I highly recommend the doing that if you're thinking of selling. Or better still, you can get a copy of my book, which is an ebook version as well, and have a look at that chapter and read the whole book anyway, because it's the seven deadly sins when selling your property. And of course, one of the deadly sins was having the house dressed up nicely. So hope that it's some value to you. And yeah, just ask for my ebook and you get it. No problem at all. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye bye.